Hi everyone, welcome to Data and AI Summit by Databricks. I'm super excited to be with Amit, who's the CEO at CData. Amit, welcome to the Robert Show. It's your debut, long due, and I'm super excited to be chatting with you today about a lot of different topics, AI, data integration, and much more. But just for audience, would you like to tell us a little about what CData does?
Excited to be here. First of all,
Thank you.
Ravit, thanks for having me on the show.
For sure.
So CData has always been in the data connectivity space. What we help customers do is connect to all sorts of systems.
Right.
Think about SaaS applications, ERP systems, databases, of course,
Yep.
and make sense of all of that data. I will talk about the various trends and where that is going, like
Yeah.
based on AI and everything, but that's our core is this connectivity capability.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Amit, one quick question. Since you mentioned CData has been in the data connectivity space for years, how do you see the rise of AI agents changing the fundamental requirements of data access? Anything that you would like to share around those lines?
Yeah, so I think in the previous era, like you would think about, there were very set patterns on how people would work with data. One of the set pattern that has brought us today is to Databricks is like the data warehousing pattern, right?
Yeah.
Like you move data from all sorts of sources into systems like Databricks and Snowflake, or even other vendors. There are a lot of them. Bring it into data warehouses and
Yep.
compute on them. With AI agents, we are seeing this emergence of the capability of accessing data even when it is not in the data warehouse. Data warehouses were very important, and they still are, but there is, I think, another twist to the story where you can work with data live as well.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic, and that's something super interesting. I'm kind of also curious to learn a little about the model context protocol and why it's becoming critical for agentic AI development. Any thoughts that you have around that as well?
So let's start with what is MCP,
MCP,
right? Like,
yeah,
right? Like, I
exactly.
think most people would know it. Like, you probably already know it, but for the benefit of some of our audience,
For sure,
right?
we
Like,
love that.
right? Like, so LLMs took off, and you can have a conversational chat with the LLMs very, very easily. And then the second stage of it is like you want to bring in proprietary data into that conversation. And there are two ways of doing it. One approach was, and this is what took prevalence in the earlier years,
Yep.
which is the RAG model. Like we'll bring context by building it outside of the LLM, right? Like you go and you
Yeah.
put everything in a vector database and you search it and you bring it there. But that approach has flaws. Like you're only doing a very simplistic search to bring context to the LLM. It's much better to let the LLM reach out and decipher context based on the conversation going on in the LLM. So MCP, what it lets you do is it is a standard tooling that allows the LLM to go out and bring more context into the conversation. So imagine the simple use case. You're talking about weather. LLM has no idea about current weather. It can go, and if there is an MCP tool that can give it the weather, it can go and ask like, okay, tell me the weather in this location
Yep.
because it's relevant to our conversation. Same thing you can do with data. So you could, like our customers are using it, like if you're having a sales-based conversation, the LLM can go and tap into a Salesforce system and
Yep.
get context from there.
Yep.
So that's, in a nutshell, what an MCP server is.
Yeah, I think thanks for sharing that. I'm kind of also wanting to learn how does C data, kind of fit in within the modern architecture. How does it differ from, the traditional data integration approaches? Can you tell a little about that too?
So two big parts. One is this live connectivity notion that I bring
Yeah.
up, right? Like,
Yeah.
so obviously for some workloads, you will have to move data into a data warehouse, right?
Yep.
And you can process it like that. But sometimes you don't want to do that. And you don't want to do that is because it's an exploratory use case
Yep.
or people are trying to figure out something on the fly. You don't even know what question you want to ask.
Exactly.
And for those, you want to connect directly to the system. And what we bring in is we have a consistent approach of connecting to 270 plus data sources. So
Wow.
whether it is an ERP system or a CRM system, we have a way that you can connect to it using a simple paradigm which is SQL based, which AI and LLMs already understand.
Very interesting.
So
Yeah.
our MCP servers, like people were surprised that we came out with 270 plus MCP servers over
Yeah.
a period of like a very short duration.
That's huge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And people are building them one-off. It's like, how did you get to 270?
270 together.
It's because our underlying technology was already well suited to do that. Like we already have a SQL layer on top of this, and that is very well suited to build these MCP servers.
So that kind of helped you all to build that, but 270 is still a very big number. What did customers say when they kind of, obviously started using these connectors and they've been kind of using MCP now? I know I've obviously spoke to the team, I've read a few case studies, but I would love to learn a little bit about the customer stories.
So the customers are very excited.
Exactly.
Like if you think about enterprise developers, like they are looking at these MCP servers and like, wow, I can just now literally talk to the data, right? Like you can put a question and it'll get a response back from the LLM.
Yep.
And they're very excited about that. CData does business in two ways. We help direct customers, enterprise developers, but we also work with ISVs. So we just recently announced that we have done work with Palantir. Palantir is using all of our connectors inside their solution.
That's fantastic.
A few months ago, we announced we're working with SAP, another Databricks partner, right? Like, so they are using all of our connectors. So we're seeing more engagement even from these ISVs where they're saying, we would like to license these MCP servers because they like the model and how the architecture of the MCP servers that CData has built.
That's fantastic, and congratulations on all the success there. One more quick question around the early adoption of Matrix for your MCP. So, what? First of all, how can it be deployed, the AI agents? And if you have any other use case around it, you don't have to name any companies or customers, but then anything that you can share around that.
Yeah, so we have hundreds of developers trying this, right? Like, so first iteration was having these MCP servers built into Claude. Like we have a partnership with Anthropic and we're working with them. And so bringing it into Claude Desktop and making it easy for Claude Desktop to get to external data was our first iteration. The second is like the benefit of MCP is that it is very universal. It's not just Anthropic, but OpenAI has announced support for it, Gemini has announced support for it. So working with all of our LLM partners into bringing it all across all of those ecosystem. And then the third thing we're doing is we will soon announce this capability on our Connect Cloud product.
Oh, nice.
Which is a SaaS-based platform. So you don't have to do it just within your desktop, but you can do it in a server environment within the browser as well.
That's pretty cool, and that's something I think very interesting for the developers out there as well. So thanks for sharing that. One more quick question around the future. So how do you see the relationship between data connectivity and AI agents evolving? How should enterprises be prepared for it? Any advice as well?
Yeah, so I think, so first part I would say like, this is a train that has already left the station and carrying momentum, right? Like so, MCP servers, what we did was just the first thing we did. We're building agents on top of that, agents that are fit for purpose. My personal view is like you will see a lot of organizations and a lot of companies building agents, but I think over a period of years, what you will see that these agents will become interoperable. The world of today is that every platform is sort of an island. If you have an agent on that platform, you could build a workflow, but there is no ability for agents to go across vendors and building a workflow like that.
Exactly.
But I think agents will specialize. That's how big scale is built up. Like people specialize, agents will specialize. And you will see that people will build agents across multiple vendors. You've already seen emergence of that with Google's A2A platform.
A2A platform.
Correct. And then you have seen acknowledgement of A2A by other vendors too. Like Microsoft has said, we make sense, we will do that. And so you will see that come out in real life scenarios. It isn't there yet, but I believe what will happen is you will see people building agentic flows that transfers from one platform to another very seamlessly.
That's fantastic, and thanks for sharing that. I'm kind of curious to see that as well, how that kind of works out, and I'm pretty sure agents will get much more smarter than where we are today. It's going to evolve very quickly. One more question I had was around maybe the misconception. So what sort of misconception, like maybe one misconception that you've kind of seen in the AI and data connectivity space that you can share with the audience that, okay, this is something, the biggest misconception that maybe the enterprise leaders have or the developers have, or even the community?
I mean, I think the biggest misconception that people have around the space is like people get too caught up into very dominant models, right? Like, so this data warehousing model and everything. I think it is fantastic and Databricks is doing great work. But depending on the use case, there are other areas in how people should think about the stack. And I think because it's so early, you will see that the stack will bifurcate and people will do different things. I'll give you an example. People were all in on RAG. Like if we were having this conversation 2 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about MCP and agents. We would be talking about RAG models and how to build that and everything, right? Like, and so the technology has leapfrogged, and they're still important, but there's a new paradigm, right? Like I think that's what people have to understand. There's a fast-moving space. People have to be agile in how to make use of it, and then you will see that there will be future developments as well.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. And I think, yeah, from an extent from where I see, that's like a huge misconception as well. So thanks for sharing all the insights, Amit. One last question for you is, if folks want to follow you, reach out to you, learn more about the different things that CData is doing in this space, which is the best place? LinkedIn, I know website they can definitely visit, but yeah, I'll let you
I think absolutely. Please check out what the work we are doing around AI. One thing I would mention is we're going to have a conference, and I would love to have you there.
Oh, fantastic!
It's a digital conference, like towards the closer to fall. It's called the Foundations. AI is in the name of it. Like so, that's why like we launched it last year. We'll have a bigger presence this year. We are hoping to have our partners and many people join. So I would like the audience to come and be part of that conference. Yeah.
Love it. This is great. Definitely looking forward to Foundation, and we'll keep following CData's journey. But thanks for all the insights, and thanks for taking the time out to have a fantastic Data Plus AI Summit by Databricks.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
It's great to be here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.